Tom stared at the small pile of credits in his hand. 3 months of traveling between space stations had left him almost broke. His stomach growled, reminding him that he hadn't eaten in 12 hours. He needed a place to live, and he needed it now. The neon signs of New Shanghai Space Station blinked around him. Thousands of aliens walked past, their strange shapes and colors mixing in the crowded streets. None of them seemed to notice the tired human standing in the middle of the walkway. No humans allowed. Read another apartment listing on his cheap tablet. Tom sighed. It was the 100th "No Humans" sign he had seen today. Some landlords were polite about it. Others just slammed their doors in his face. After the Earth-Mars war, many aliens didn't trust humans anymore. A new listing popped up on his screen. Tom's eyes widened. The rent was cheap, really cheap. And best of all, there was no humans warning. He checked the address. Level 42, Block C. It was in the older part of the station, where the lights didn't work so well and the air recyclers made funny noises. Better than sleeping in the station corridors again, Tom muttered. He shouldered his worn backpack and headed for the nearest elevator. The hallway on level 42 was dimly lit. Water dripped somewhere in the distance, making hollow metal sounds. Most of the apartment doors were covered in rust, but number 4219 looked different. The door was clean, and strange blue plants grew in pots beside it. Tom took a deep breath and pressed the call button. A soft chime sounded inside. The door slid open silently. Tom's mouth fell open. The alien standing there was nothing like he expected. She was tall, nearly 7 feet, with silvery scales that caught the light. Her 4 eyes blinked at him in surprise. 2 large ones like a human's, and 2 smaller ones above them. She wore what looked like an expensive dress, but it was old and slightly faded. A human. Her voice was musical but uncertain. I wasn't expecting. Please, Tom said quickly. I saw your listing. I can pay 3 months' rent in advance. He held out his credits, trying to stop his hand from shaking. It was almost all the money he had left. The alien lady studied him with all 4 eyes. You're desperate, she said. It wasn't a question. Yes, Tom admitted. No point lying. But I'm quiet, clean, and I fix things. I worked maintenance on 3 different stations. She looked at the credits in his hand, then down the empty hallway. Something like worry crossed her elegant face. I'm desperate too, she whispered, so quietly Tom barely heard it. Then she straightened up and said in a stronger voice, there are rules. Many rules. First, no cooking during the triple moons. Second, you must sing in the shower. Any song will do. Third, never answer the door when I'm not home. Fourth, I'll follow any rules, Tom promised. I just need a chance. The alien lady was quiet for a long moment. Behind her, Tom could see part of the apartment. Despite the building's shabby exterior, the inside looked clean and well kept. Strange artwork hung on the walls, and more of those blue plants were everywhere. Very well, she finally said. But remember the rules. Breaking them means immediate eviction. I am Madame Celara, your new landlady. She stepped aside to let him in. Tom walked into the apartment, hardly believing his luck. But something felt odd. Why was someone like Madame Celara, who clearly came from money, renting out rooms in this old part of the station? And what were those strange rules about? As if reading his thoughts, Celara closed the door and locked it with 3 different security codes. The room is small, but it has its own bathroom. The kitchen we will share. She paused. And Mr. Tom. Just Tom. Mr. Tom. One last rule. The most important one. All 4 of her eyes fixed on him. If anyone asks, you're just a regular tenant. Nothing more. Understand? Tom nodded, but his mind was racing. What was she hiding from? Why was she so careful with security? And why did she seem to flinch at every noise from the hallway? He had found a place to live, yes, But something told him he had also walked into a mystery that was much bigger than a simple rental agreement. Sci-Fi showed him to his room, her scaled fingers tapping nervously on the doorframe. "Welcome home, Mr. Tom," she said. "I hope neither of us comes to regret this arrangement." Tom woke up to the sound of singing. Not human singing. It was more like crystal wind chimes in a storm. He lay in his small bed, listening to Xilura's voice echo through the apartment's ventilation system. The clock showed 3 a.m. station time. Rule number 2, he remembered, must sing in the shower. But why was she showering at this hour? After 3 days in Xilura's apartment, Tom had noticed strange patterns. His landlady barely slept. She spent hours in her indoor garden, talking to the glowing blue plants in a language his translator couldn't understand. And sometimes she just stared out the station window, all 4 eyes fixed on the distant stars. Tonight was different, though. The triple moons of the gas giant they orbited were almost aligned, which meant no cooking allowed. Tom's stomach growled at the thought. "Mr. Tom." Xilura's voice came through his door. "Are you awake?" "Yes, Madam Xilura." "Good. Please help me with something urgent." Tom opened his door to find Xilura wearing what looked like ceremonial robes. Her scales shimmered with an odd purple light he hadn't seen before. She held a large box made of some dark wood. "The moons align in 1 hour," she said. "We must prepare." "Prepare for what?" Instead of answering, she handed him the box. "Hold this. Don't open it. Follow me to the garden." The apartment's garden room was Xilura's private space, but tonight she led him inside. The blue plants had changed color. They were now pulsing with a soft red glow. The air felt thick with a sweet smell that made Tom's head spin. "Stand there." Xilura pointed to a circle drawn on the floor. "Hold the box steady." She began to dance. There was no music, but her movements followed some rhythm Tom couldn't hear. Her robes swirled around her tall frame as she spun. The plant's glow intensified. "Whatever happens," she said between spins, "don't leave the circle. And most importantly, don't answer if someone knocks." As if on cue, a heavy pounding came from the apartment's front door. Xilura froze mid-spin. Boom, boom, boom. "Xilura," a deep voice called. "We know you're preparing the moonbloom ritual. Let us in." Tom watched as fear crept across his landlady's face. All 4 of her eyes widened, and her scales lost their purple shine. "Keep holding the box," she whispered. "Our lives depend on it." The pounding grew louder. More voices joined in. The plant's red glow turned deep crimson, matching the light of the aligned moons outside the station window. Xilura resumed her dance, faster now. She pulled a small vial from her robes and drank it in one swift motion. Her scales began to glow bright purple again, but this time Tom could see something else. Patterns emerging on her skin, like moving tattoos telling a story he couldn't read. The box in his hands grew warm, then hot, then it started to hum. "Xilura." The voices outside grew angry. "You can't hide forever. The council will find out." "Almost done." Xilura gasped between spins. "Just hold on." The box vibrated harder. Through its cracks, Tom saw the same red light as the plants. His arms ached, but he remembered Xilura's warning. Their lives depended on this. Suddenly, everything stopped. The pounding at the door, the plant's glow, the box's heat. Xilura stood in the center of the garden, her robes smoking slightly, all 4 eyes glowing with purple fire. "It is done," she said, her voice deeper than normal. "Quick, put the box in that cabinet." As Tom stored the box, he noticed his hands were covered in tiny glowing symbols, just like the patterns that had appeared on Xilura's scales. "Madam Xilura," he said carefully, "I think I deserve some answers." She sank into a chair, looking exhausted. "Yes, you do. But first, we need to move. They'll break down the door soon." She pointed to the glowing symbols on his hands. "And now that you're marked by the moonbloom ritual, You're in as much danger as I am." The pounding at the door started again. Laura grabbed a pre-packed bag from behind a plant pot. "How good are you at running, Mr. Tom?" Before he could answer, the apartment's lights went out. In the darkness, Laura's glowing scales and Tom's marked hands cast strange shadows on the walls. The front door groaned under the assault from outside. "Time to go," Laura said, grabbing his arm. "And remind me to add a new rule. No more humans who are stupid enough to help a fugitive moon priestess with illegal rituals." She smiled for the first time since he'd met her. In the purple light of her scales, her sharp teeth gleamed. The door began to crack. "This way." Laura pulled Tom through a maintenance shaft he hadn't even known existed behind her garden room. The glowing marks on his hands lit their way through the dark tunnel. Behind them, the sound of their apartment door finally breaking echoed through the metal walls. "What's a moon priestess?" Tom gasped as they ran. The tunnel sloped downward, taking them deeper into the station's older sections. "Someone who should know better than to trust a human," Laura said, but her tone was more worried than angry. Her scales' purple glow had dimmed to a faint shimmer. "The ritual wasn't supposed to mark you. Now they'll hunt both of us." The tunnel ended at a rusty ladder. Laura pointed up. As they climbed, Tom heard voices above them. "The priestess went this way. Find them both. The human is marked now. Don't let them reach the lower markets." Laura cursed in a language that made the air crackle. "They're blocking our escape route." She looked at Tom with all four eyes. "How much do you trust me? Considering I'm already glowing and running from space police." "Completely." She pulled another vial from her robes. This one contained something that looked like liquid starlight. "Drink half. Quick." Tom did. It tasted like mint ice cream and burning metal. Suddenly, his body felt lighter than air. "Now jump." Laura grabbed his hand and pulled him off the ladder. Instead of falling, they floated gently down a massive ventilation shaft. The station's huge atmospheric processors roared around them. Laura guided them through the maze of spinning fans and steam vents with practiced ease. "You've done this before," Tom realized. "Many times, before I was a landlady. I had another life." She pointed to a side vent. "In there." They squeezed through the vent just as voices and flashlight beams appeared above. The vent led to a small room filled with old machinery and, surprisingly, more of Laura's blue plants. "My backup sanctuary," she explained, touching one of the plants. It pulsed with light in response. "We should be safe here for a few hours." Tom looked at his glowing hands. The marks were forming patterns now, circles within circles, with strange symbols between them. "Will someone finally tell me what's going on?" Laura sank onto an old crate. In the blue light of the plants, she looked older somehow. Tired. "I was once high priestess of the Triple Moon Temple," she began. "We guarded ancient secrets, performed sacred rituals. But some secrets are too dangerous." She touched her scales, which flickered like dying stars. "Some rituals should stay buried. Like the Moonbloom ritual. That ritual was forbidden for a reason. It opens doorways that should stay closed." She looked at his glowing hands. "It wasn't supposed to mark a human. You should have just held the box, been a simple witness. But something about you." She leaned closer, studying the marks. "The patterns are different, not like any I've seen before." A distant bang made them both jump. The hunters were getting closer. "They're following our energy signature," Laura said. "The marks make us easy to track." She started pulling more vials and strange objects from her bag. "I can mask us temporarily, but—" She stopped. All four of her eyes went wide with shock. Tom looked down. The marks on his hands had started moving, swirling into new patterns. The blue plants around them began to pulse in sync with the shifting symbols. "Impossible," Laura whispered. "The marks are adapting, evolving." "That's never." She grabbed his hands. "What are you?" "Really?" Before Tom could answer, A holographic screen flickered to life on the room's wall. An automated station announcement. A team to own all RESIDENTs. Reward OFFE or EF or NNF formation LEAD to the capture of FUGITIV moon price dis XILARA and here human HQM PIC. Suspects are considered dangerous. Approach with caution. The Council of Elders demands. The message repeated in 12 different alien languages. Silara quickly shut it off. Well, Tom said, watching the marks continue to swirl across his skin, at least we're famous now. Silara didn't laugh. She was staring at his hands with a mixture of fear and fascination. The ritual didn't just mark you, she said slowly. It chose you. Do you know what that means? New voices echoed through the vents. Closer now. The blue plants dimmed their glow, as if hiding. It means, Silara continued, pulling out one last vial filled with swirling black liquid, that I'm about to break every sacred law of my order. She looked at Tom with an expression he couldn't read. And you, my strange human tenant, are about to learn the real reason the Council fears the Moonbloom ritual. She uncorked the vial. The liquid inside moved like it was alive. Last chance to run, she said. Tom looked at his glowing hands, then at the vial, then at the alien he'd met just days ago as a simple landlady. He smiled. I already paid 3 months' rent, he said. I'm not going anywhere. The voices were right outside now. Silara's scales began to glow brighter. Drink, she said, handing him the vial. And remember, no matter what you see next, keep singing in the shower. Some rules still matter. The black liquid tasted like midnight and starlight. As Tom swallowed it, the glowing marks on his hands burst into brilliant blue flame. But there was no heat, only a tingling sensation that spread through his entire body. What's happening to me? He asked, watching as the flame-like light raced up his arms. The impossible, Silara replied. Her own scales were pulsing with energy, creating patterns that matched his marks, the human soul embracing moon magic. It's never been done before. The wall behind them exploded. Through the smoke stepped 3 figures wearing ceremonial armor that seemed to absorb light. Their helmets had 6 eye slits each, all glowing red. Moon Hunter Elite, Silara hissed. The Council's best assassins. Priestess Silara. The central figure's voice echoed metallically. Your crimes against the sacred order end here. The hunter turned to Tom. The human will be processed. Tom felt something surge inside him. The black liquid was changing him somehow. He could see energy flowing through the station walls like rivers of light. He could feel Silara's presence beside him, burning bright as a star. Actually, Tom said, surprised by how his voice echoed with power, I have a better idea. He raised his hands. The blue flame marks responded instantly, shooting out tendrils of energy that wrapped around the hunter's armor. They struggled, but couldn't break free. Impossible, one hunter shouted. Moon magic requires years of training. Silara stepped forward, her scales now blazing with purple fire. Unless, she said with a dangerous smile, you're naturally attuned to it, like my new tenant apparently is. She pulled something from her robes, the dark wooden box from the ritual. It was humming again. You know what this contains, she told the hunters. Want to see what happens when a human moon priest opens it? The hunters stopped struggling. You wouldn't dare, the leader said. It's forbidden to share the sacred treasures with outsiders. Funny thing about rules, Tom said, thinking of all Silara's strange apartment regulations. Sometimes they're meant to be broken. He reached for the box with his flame-marked hands. The hunters watched in horror as it recognized him, ancient locks clicking open one by one. Inside was a single crystal, black as space, but filled with swirling lights like a galaxy in miniature. The heart of the triple moons, Silara whispered. My family guarded it for 10 generations. Until your husband tried to steal it, the hunter leader finished. Until you killed him to protect it. Tom looked at Tylara sharply. She didn't meet his gaze. I didn't kill him, she said quietly. He killed himself when the heart rejected him, when it showed him the truth. What truth? Tom asked. Instead of answering, Tylara took his hand and pressed it to the crystal. The world exploded into visions. Asterisk, a vast space battle, ships burning. Asterisk, 3 moons aligning while planets shattered. Asterisk, creatures of pure energy walking among stars. Asterisk, and humans, ancient humans, working alongside Tylara's people, wielding moon magic together. Asterisk, the truth. Tylara said as the visions faded that humans were never meant to be excluded from moon magic. They were our original partners before the Council rewrote history. The hunters were backing away now. The Council will never accept this, their leader warned. The Council, came a new voice, has much to answer for. Everyone turned. In the doorway stood an alien even taller than Tylara, wearing robes that seemed woven from starlight. Their scales were pure white. Tylara dropped to her knees. Hi, Elder Rix. The hunters tried to run, but the elder raised one hand. They froze in place. When Tylara reported her suspicions about council corruption, Elder Rix said, I had my doubts. But then she proposed this test, finding the human who could handle moon magic, and I allowed her experiment. They looked at Tom with all 6 of their eyes. Quite successfully, it seems. This was a test, Tom asked Tylara. She stood up, looking embarrassed. The apartment, the rules, the ritual, yes. But your reaction to the magic, that was completely unexpected. And genuine. She touched his still glowing marks. As genuine as my growing feelings for my strange human tenant. Elder Rix cleared their throat. Yes, well, romance aside, we have work to do. The corrupt council members must be exposed. The ancient human-alien alliance must be restored. They looked at Tom. Are you prepared to help? It will be dangerous. Tom looked at his glowing hands, at the crystal showing humanity's forgotten history, and at Tylara, his mysterious landlady who had turned out to be so much more. Do I still have to sing in the shower? He asked her. Always, she replied with a smile. Some rules really do matter. Then I'm in, Tom said. But first, he turned to Elder Rix. About that 3 months' rent I paid. The huge chamber filled with Tylara's crystalline laughter. The blue plants pulsed in harmony. And somewhere above, the triple moons aligned once more, casting their ancient light on a new beginning. The council chamber was burning. Not with normal fire, with pure moon energy that twisted in impossible colors. Tom stood beside Tylara, his marked hands crackling with blue flame as corrupt council members fired dark energy bolts at them from all directions. Any more surprise tests I should know about? He asked, creating a shield of moonlight that deflected another attack. Just one, Tylara replied, her scales blazing like a supernova. Duck. Tom dropped as she spun, releasing a wave of purple energy that knocked 3 council guards off their floating platforms. Above them, through the chamber's crystal dome, the triple moons cast their light on the chaos below. Elder Rix stood at the chamber's center, their white scales now rippling with rainbow patterns. The evidence has been presented. Their voice boomed. This council has hidden the truth for centuries. Human-alien cooperation was the foundation of our society. Lies. Supreme Counselor Vex rose from his throne, black energy coursing around him. Humans are dangerous. Look what giving one moon magic has already done. He pointed at Tom. They cannot be trusted with such power. Says the man who's been selling sacred artifacts on the black market. Tom shot back. He touched the heart of triple moons, still hanging around his neck. It pulsed, sharing another vision. Ancient temples on Earth and alien worlds, connected by bridges of pure moonlight. Human and alien children learning magic together. A great betrayal. Vex's ancestors leading a coup, erasing history. Enough. Vex snarled. He pulled out a forbidden weapon, a staff made of dark crystal that seemed to eat light. If the old alliance returns, we lose everything. You lose your power, Xylera corrected. She stepped closer to Tom, their energies merging, blue and purple light swirling together. The rest of us gain our true history back. Something was happening as their powers combined. The marks on Tom's hands began spreading, creating new patterns in the air. Xylera's scales resonated with each symbol, and the heart of triple moons sang a note that shook the chamber. Elder Rick smiled. The convergence, just as the ancient texts predicted. What's a convergence? Tom asked, watching in amazement as the energy patterns around him and Xylera grew more complex. The reason the corrupt council feared human-alien partnerships, Rix explained. When our species work together, we can achieve. A blast from Vex's staff cut them off. Dark energy writhed across the chamber floor like living shadows. I won't let you destroy everything we've built. Vex roared. The shadows rose up, taking forms. Twisted versions of ancient creatures from both human and alien nightmares. Tom, Xylera said urgently, remember the apartment rules. Which one? No cooking during full moons. Singing in the shower. The one about answering the door. She pointed to a pattern their combined energy was creating. A doorway of pure light forming in the air. Sometimes not answering is wise. Other times. Tom understood. He reached out, his marked hand meeting Xylera's scaled one. Together, they opened the door. Light exploded through the chamber. But not just light. Knowledge. Memories. Truth. It poured from the doorway, washing over everyone present. Council members dropped their weapons as ancestral memories flooded back. Guards lowered their shields as they remembered the old ways. Through the door stepped figures of pure energy. The original moon priests, both human and alien, their forms preserved in moonlight for centuries. No, Vex raised his staff, but the shadows he'd summoned were dissolving in the ancient light. You'll destroy everything. We'll rebuild everything, Tom corrected. The marks on his hands were telling a new story now, one of future possibilities. Together. Xylera's scales shimmered as she completed the ancient gesture her ancestors had taught her through the heart's visions. Starting with one simple change, she said. The chamber's crystal dome retracted. Moonlight poured in, but it was different now. Pure. Uncorrupted. The triple moons seemed to shine brighter than ever before. The age of separation is over, Elder Rix announced. The age of convergence begins. But Vex had one last move. He smashed his staff against the floor. If I can't rule, he snarled, no one will. Dark energy exploded outward, threatening to tear the station apart. Tom looked at Xylera. She nodded. Together, they stepped through the door of light. What they saw there, what they learned, what they became, that would change everything. And somewhere, in an empty apartment with strange rules and glowing blue plants, a rental agreement sat unsigned. Its mundane concerns now part of a much bigger story. Through the door of light, reality changed. Tom and Xylera found themselves floating in a space between spaces, where moonlight took physical form and memories became stars around them. Welcome, said a chorus of voices, to the lunar realm. Beings of pure light moved around them. The ancient moon priests. Some had human shapes, others were clearly alien, but most were somewhere in between, as if they'd grown beyond physical form entirely. Can we stop Vex's dark energy from here? Tom asked, watching through the doorway as the station began to crack under the assault. Better, one of the light beings said, taking a form similar to Xylera's. We can show you why he fears this place so much. The space around them shifted. They were suddenly standing in what looked like a vast library. But instead of books, It held glowing orbs of memory and knowledge. Your species were never meant to be separate, the being continued. Humans provided creativity, adaptation, quick thinking. Our kind provided stability, ancient knowledge, connection to the moon's power. Together, we were unstoppable. Chilara finished, her scales reflecting the strange light of this realm. Until Vex's ancestors rewrote history, but they couldn't erase everything. Another being said, this one shifting between human and alien forms. The truth remained, hidden in plain sight. The apartment rules, Tom realized. They weren't random at all. Hilara smiled, singing in the shower, using sound to connect with moon energy. No cooking during triple moons, because that's when the barrier between realms is thinnest. Never answering the door when I'm away, because only certain doors should be opened at certain times. You were teaching me the old ways without telling me, and learning if you could figure them out, she admitted. Most humans would have ignored the rules or demanded explanations. You just adapted, like our ancestors did. A massive tremor shook the lunar realm. Through the doorway, they could see the station's structure beginning to fail as Vex's dark energy spread. Time grows short, the first being said. You must make a choice. Stay here, learn the full truth of both your peoples, or return and face Vex, with only a fraction of the knowledge, but all of the power that brought you here. Tom looked at his marked hands, then at Chilara. What do you think, Landlady? Should we stay and learn, or go back and break some more rules? Chilara's scales flickered with suppressed laughter. Well, you did pay for 3 months. Hate to waste the rent. There is one other option, a new voice said. They turned. A being of pure moonlight approached, but unlike the others, this one seemed more solid, more present. It walked on the strange surface of the lunar realm as if it belonged there. I am the first, it said. The original moon priest who discovered how to bridge our peoples. Its form shifted rapidly between human and alien. I can show you not just the past, but the future, what you could become together. The first raised its hands. Reality rippled. Tom and Chilara saw themselves as they could be. Beings of pure energy like the ancient priests, their forms merged yet distinct, wielding power beyond imagination. The true convergence, Chilara whispered. But, the first warned, such power comes at a price. You would need to leave your old lives behind. Become something new, something neither human nor alien has been for centuries. Another tremor. Through the doorway, they saw Vex's darkness starting to seep into the lunar realm itself. He's trying to corrupt this place, Tom realized. Destroy the source of all moon magic. Then we choose now, Chilara said firmly. She turned to Tom. My strange human tenant who never complained about the rules, who helped me perform a forbidden ritual without asking why, who makes me feel more alive than I have in centuries. She held out her hand. What do you say? Want to break the biggest rule of all? Tom looked at her scaled hand, glowing with purple light, then at his own marked hands, burning blue, at the station falling apart around them, at the ancient priests watching expectantly, at the future the first had shown them. He smiled. Does this mean I get my security deposit back? Chilara laughed, that crystal wind chime sound he'd first heard through the apartment walls. I'll do better than that, she said. I'll show you what those shower songs were really practicing for. They clasped hands. Blue flame met purple light. The first stepped forward, raising its arms. The very fabric of the lunar realm began to sing. And in the station above, as Vex's darkness threatened to consume everything, a new light began to shine. Not just blue or purple, but every color that had ever existed, and some that never had before. The true convergence was beginning. But even as Tom and Chilara felt themselves changing, becoming something gloriously new, a dark thought crept in. Vex had spent centuries planning his revenge. Did he know this would happen? Was he counting on it? Through the doorway, in the chaos of the failing station, they caught a glimpse of Vex's face. He was smiling. The transformation wasn't gentle. It felt like being unmade and reborn in every moment. Tom and Silara's forms merged and separated, their energies dancing between states of matter and light. The first's power flowed through them, turning them into something new, something that hadn't existed since the ancient days. But Vex was laughing. Finally, his voice boomed across dimensions. The true convergence. The power I'd waited centuries to absorb. The first's light dimmed. No, it was a trap. Vex's dark energy wasn't trying to destroy the station. It was hurting everyone exactly where he wanted them. The corruption wasn't random. It was a ritual circle vast enough to encompass both realms. Your ancestors didn't just hide the truth. Vex sneered at Silara. They found a way to steal convergence power. But they needed willing participants. His dark staff pulsed. A human and an alien, choosing to merge. Just like you. Dark tendrils shot through the doorway, wrapping around Tom and Silara's transforming forms. The ancient priests tried to intervene, but Vex's circle was already complete. He wasn't just trying to stop the convergence, he was trying to corrupt it. Tom. Silara's voice came from everywhere and nowhere as their forms fluctuated. The apartment rules. Think about the rules. Through the haze of transformation and pain, Tom remembered. Sing in the shower. Sound effects energy. No cooking during triple moons. Power is strongest then. Never answer the door when she's away. Because some doors should stay closed. Tom realized. Using the last of his human form, he reached for the door of light they'd created. Silara understood instantly. As her alien form flickered, she reached with him. No, Vex shouted. But it was too late. Together, they slammed the door shut, with Vex's tendrils still reaching through it. The effect was immediate. The door became a blade, severing Vex's connection to both realms. His dark energy recoiled, corrupted circle breaking. The station stabilized as his power faltered. But Tom and Silara were still caught between forms, between worlds. The transformation can't be stopped, the first warned. You must choose. Return to your old forms and lose this power forever, or complete the convergence, knowing there's no going back. Through their merged consciousness, Tom felt Silara's response. Some rules are meant to be broken. He agreed. And some changes are meant to be. They stopped fighting the transformation. Their energies mixed completely human creativity with alien wisdom, Earth's adaptability with lunar knowledge. They became light and shadow, energy and matter, past and future. When they emerged back into normal space, they were neither human nor alien. Their combined form shimmered with constellation patterns, scaled skin glowing with marks that told ancient stories, 4 eyes that saw into multiple dimensions, and a smile that contained multitudes. Vex stared in horror. Impossible. The corrupted circle should have. Should have what? Their voice chimed like crystal and rumbled like thunder. Should have let you steal power you never earned, never understood. They floated towards him, reality rippling around their new form. You forgot the most important rule. Which rule? They smiled with star-bright teeth. Always pay your rent on time. Their combined power struck Vex like a supernova. His staff shattered. His stolen knowledge burned away. When the light faded, he was just another corrupt official, facing a chamber full of witnesses to his crimes. Later, in the lunar realm, the first approached their merged form. What will you do now? You're the first true convergence being in centuries. You could rule, teach, rebuild. They considered. Through their shared mind, memories flickered. A lonely human counting his last credits. A grieving alien posting a rental listing. A chance meeting that changed 2 worlds. Actually, they said, we have a better idea. 1 month later, a new sign appeared in the station's housing district. Co-Convergence Apartmentes. Now renting to all species. Special rates for mixed couples. Warning: strange rules apply. Current landlords: the being formerly known as Tom and Silura. Note: singing in showers still mandatory. And somewhere in the station, someone down on their luck saw the sign and thought, well, how bad could a few strange rules be? Behind the desk, a shimming being with 4 eyes smiled, holding out a very unusual rental agreement, while distant moons cast their light through the office window. Some stories end, others transform, and sometimes, if you follow all the right rules, they do both at once. After all, the rent is always due, in this realm and every other.